Okay, so get ready for this, because today we are diving into a really wild, really bold idea. I want you to just forget everything you think you know about the universe. You know, that it's all made of matter and energy? What if that's not the whole story? What if the most fundamental thing, the bedrock of reality, is actually information? We're going to explore this whole new way of thinking, called informational physics. And the big claim here? One single equation that could explain, well, everything. Particles, galaxies, life itself, even our own minds, all just different faces of the same coin.
And look, this isn't about finding some new tiny particle at the LHC or a new force. Nope, this is about asking a totally different kind of question. Think about it. What if all the biggest, most stubborn mysteries in science, the ones that seem like they have nothing to do with each other, what if they're not separate problems? What if they're all just pieces of the same puzzle, clues pointing to one single, deeper truth?
So to really get why this new idea is such a big deal, first we gotta look at the giants. The huge, looming questions that, even with all our incredible science, we just can't seem to answer.
I mean, just look at the list. For starters, we've got these two beautiful theories for how the universe works. General relativity for all the big stuff, quantum mechanics for the tiny stuff. And they just don't get along. It's a huge problem. Then there's the fact that we know like 95% of the universe is made of this mysterious dark matter and dark energy, and we have literally no clue what they are. And what about life? What's the secret sauce that makes a living thing, well, alive? What keeps it so perfectly organized, constantly fighting off chaos, when a pile of the same chemicals would just be a dead lump? And then you get to the really big ones. What is consciousness? And how would we ever know if we found another intelligence out there? I'm talking AI, aliens, you name it. Right now, all of these problems feel completely separate, right? Like they're in different worlds. But what if? What if they're all whispering the very same secret?
So, you gotta ask, how on earth could you connect the gravity holding a star together with the thoughts happening inside your head? They seem worlds apart. Well, this is where we get the big paradigm shift. To even try, you have to throw out the old rulebook and find a completely new starting point. And here it is, the heart of the whole thing. Instead of starting with stuff, atoms, energy, the usual suspects, this theory says we need to start with information. It's all about the patterns, how things are arranged, and crucially, how certain patterns manage to survive, to stay real, while others just fizzle out into nothing. Think about it. A particle is just a super stable, simple pattern. A living cell? That's a much more complex pattern, but one that's learned how to fix itself. And a mind? Well, that's a pattern so sophisticated it can actually be aware of its own pattern. Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, let's break it down into two simple pieces. First, we need the ingredients. If the universe is built from information, what are the basic building blocks? And second, and this is the real game changer, what's the rule book? What's the one law that tells those ingredients how to come together and make, well, everything?
All right, let's start with the ingredients. The theory says the whole universe, and I mean everything, from a rock to a thought in your head, is built from just three fundamental fields. But here's the twist. Don't think of them as physical stuff. Think of them more like the abstract source code of reality itself.
Okay, so what are they? First up, you've got the scalar field. This is pure information. It's the blueprint, the raw potential. It's the universe's what if. Next, you have the good old electromagnetic field. You know this one. This is the energy. It's the engine, the juice that makes anything happen and lets patterns talk to each other. And finally, there's the matter field. This is what gives things structure, geometry, a solid form. It's what takes the blueprint and the energy and actually builds the house. So you've got information, energy, and matter, the IEM triad. That's the foundation for everything.
Okay, so we've got our three ingredients. Awesome. But what tells them what to do, right? What's the recipe? How do they know how to combine to make an atom or a star or a living creature? That, my friends, is where we get to the most powerful part of this whole idea, the rulebook.
It's got a fancy name, Triune Harmonic Dynamics, or THD for short. But don't let the name scare you. Just think of it as the universe's law of harmony. It's this deep mathematical rule that says information, energy, and matter have to dance together in just the right way to create stable, lasting patterns. It's kind of like how only certain musical notes, when played together, create a beautiful, stable chord, instead of just a bunch of random noise. So remember, THD isn't a thing, it's the rule that governs all the things.
And when this rule is in action, it does something amazing. It carves out what you can imagine as a vast information landscape. Picture this invisible, multidimensional terrain where every possible pattern, every possible arrangement of anything has a specific location. And everything that exists, an atom, a planet, your brain, is like a little marble sitting somewhere on this cosmic map.
Now this landscape is the secret to everything. It's not flat, it's got these deep, stable valleys, and it's got these high, precarious cliffs. And all the things that stick around, the things that are real and lasting, like atoms, stars, life, they're the patterns that have rolled down and settled into one of those deep, comfy valleys. And the things that just fall apart in an instant, random static, a thought that makes no sense, they're teetering on the edge of a cliff. The rule, THD, basically acts like gravity on this landscape. It's always pushing everything downhill, towards the deepest, most stable valley it can find. That's why we see order instead of just pure chaos.
Okay, so that's the big idea. 3 ingredients, 1 rule pushing everything towards stability. But so what, right? What does this actually mean for everything? How does looking at the universe this way help us with those giant mysteries we talked about at the beginning?
Well, let's start with the universe itself. In this view, gravity isn't some spooky force pulling on things. It's just a side effect of that landscape. Huge objects like a galaxy create these massive, deep valleys in the information landscape. And what we call gravity is just other stuff, other patterns of energy and matter rolling downhill into that valley. And dark matter? Maybe it's not matter at all. Maybe what we're seeing is just the large-scale shape, the geometry of the landscape itself.
And life? This is where it gets really beautiful. A living thing isn't just a bag of chemicals. It's an information pattern that is found in an incredibly deep, incredibly stable valley. What makes it alive is that it's actively fighting to stay in that valley. It's constantly using energy to repair itself, to rebuild, to hold its pattern together, while the universe tries to knock it off the cliff into chaos. And death? In this picture, death is simply when a system finally loses the energy or ability to stay in its valley. It just rolls out into chaos.
But intelligence, this might be the most mind-bending part. It completely changes the question. We stop asking, what is consciousness, and start asking, how good is a system at processing information about itself? The theory suggests we could actually measure awareness by looking at a system's physics, how well it builds a model of its own state, and how it uses that model to stay stable in its little valley on the landscape. This would give us a universal yardstick, a way to compare a human brain, a powerful AI, maybe even an alien life form, not based on what they're made of, but on how they structure information about themselves.
So, it all comes down to this really fascinating question. Is the future of physics about piling on more and more theories, a different one for every new mystery we stumble upon, or is the next giant leap about something else entirely? About understanding one single deep rule for how information itself takes shape, holds on, and eventually becomes the real, tangible, and even conscious universe that we're all a part of? It's a totally different way of thinking about what it even means to understand, well, anything.